And then I scored my first #1 with Trey Songz, rhythmic and urban with Touch and Love featuring Nicki Minaj. So I was like, oh, like this is going down. Like,
Right. Yeah. My name's Adam, by the way, and this podcast is about you and your journey in music, and we'll talk about the new record, Drive 2.
Awesomeness, man.
Cool. Awesome. Well, first off, talk to me about where were you born and raised?
Born and raised in Washington, D.C. My father's whole side of the family, they sing or play instruments. And so, for me, just being around my pops and him singing at weddings and, at churches and stuff like that, that really kind of sparked the whole like desire for me to sing. And then as I got a little bit older, going into like little talent shows. And then by high school, I went to the art school in DC, Government School of the Arts. And that's kind of where I built my foundation and where I, kind of realized that I wanted to, do this for a living.
Sure. So did you get into singing like very, very early because of your father?
I'd say that, I love music from a very young age. I didn't start singing in public maybe until, 10 or 11 years old or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about an instrument? Were you put in like piano lessons very early?
No, I was not. I want to say I really started learning piano like in college.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I kind of like, played around with stuff and just kind of like felt out chords. I just didn't know what I was playing and how to play it and, stuff until college. So, shout out to Berkeley.
Did you know an instrument prior to going to Berkeley? Or was it
No,
all voice?
Like I said, I was playing piano a little bit, you know what I mean? But just, not as effective or efficient in the sense of being able to write and, produce at that level, in college. So, I think piano has always kind of been with me, but just not on a, proficient level.
Sure.
Yeah.
What you said 10, 11 was when you started to sing in front of people for the first time. What sparked, like, what made you take that path at that age? Were you in like a chorus or a choir or something where you're kind of forced into it, or when did you start performing?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I think it wasn't a forced thing. It was just more so, kind of like trying to prove what I felt, in my spirit, trying to confirm that to say, okay,
right.
I feel something different. I feel something like, I want to do this. And so, let me try out for, like you said, chorus first. And then let me try out for a solo to see if I can get that. And then, let me, we're at a camp and let's, they're doing a talent show. Let me sing something and see if, I sound good or, you know what I mean? Like what I've been practicing, has been, put to good use. So
sure.
That's kind of where that came from for sure. So no force. My parents didn't force me. It was just really, that the seed that God had put into me, I just kept watering over time. That it just kind of blossomed from there.
Sure. And then how did you get into this arts high school? Is it something you had to apply for, or?
Yeah, so you have to audition. So
okay.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even know that an art school existed in the city until like the year before, I entered in the high school. So it was literally like, like a godsend. Like God was just kind of like, all right, this is where you need to be. And I'm going to, there's going to be a field trip where you go to this high school and say, wow, this is in DC. Like, I wonder how you apply. I wonder, how you get into something like this, and that was really that was a seed that was embedded, yet another seed that God kind of placed in my life.
So you went on a field trip there?
They did a play. They did a play, and our middle school went to their high school, and I was just like, I've never seen this high school before. I've never even heard of this high school before, and that's what really kind of like sparked my interest. So I had to do like, of course, like an entrance exam, and then you had to audition because of the fact that like you had to be somewhat good.
Right, of course. Yeah, they're not going to take anyone, right?
Nervous. Yeah, I was nervous as heck though, in the sense of just like, auditioning. But you know, like once they like let me know that I got in, I was like, oh my gosh, like yes, I was super excited. So it was awesome.
Sure. And
Yeah.
did you go in as a singer?
Yeah, I went in as a singer. Went in as a
Okay.
singer for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And then were you in like all of the choirs and choruses and all that through high school?
Yeah, because it was kind of like we had no choice either. You know what I mean? So like that part of high school was just like, all right, you got to do choir. I think
Right,
the
right,
the
right.
other side of it was an ensemble called show choir.
Okay.
So show choir was something that you wanted to do because show choir happened after school. So all of the stuff that I like trained for in high school, like all of the after school programs and trainings and all that stuff, like by the time that I hit college, like my schedule, I was able to balance so much. But you know, at a young age, you don't realize how much that could wear you out too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, going to school at 8 a.m. and then not coming home until 9 p.m. and still having to do homework. And you know what I mean? Like you're doing like 12, 13-hour shifts like in school, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and like most of my peers that go to other high schools, they'll tap in at, 8 a.m. and then they'll get out at around 2 or 3. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it was just a whole different ball game. But it was, it was time well spent, time well invested.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you ended up going to Berkeley. And was
Yeah.
there another audition process? And I'm sure you're
Of
kind
course,
of
yeah,
yeah.
yes. Like every level was like, you're auditioning for sure. So, yet again, God really like to put a representative, at the high school. I didn't even know what Berkeley College of Music was. Didn't know that
Oh,
it was.
okay.
Yeah, so I was completely oblivious to a lot of the things that would, enter into my space.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I really called it a godsend because it wasn't something that it was like, oh, I have to go after this because I've done my research. Like Google didn't necessarily like exist, like it existed, but it wasn't
Right.
as powerful as it is now, right?
No. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
all that to say is yeah, so Berkeley came to the school and I was like, wow, it's a contemporary music school, okay, because I didn't want to do classical anymore.
Uh-huh.
I knew I could get scholarships for classical, but I was just like, I don't see myself as a classical singer, so let me go another route and audition for Berkeley. And I auditioned to like get money, so they put me on a partial scholarship.
That's
Ended up
awesome.
going there. Yeah, man. I wish it was full, but partial
But
will
still, I mean,
will
partial
take
works
that.
out,
We'll take
right?
that for sure, right? So
Right.
yeah, and then I ended up going to Boston, man, and spent those 4 years there, just really kind of sharpening my tool.
Did you or do you write or did you write, I should ask, in high school and like your own songs and perform those at all, or is that later in life?
Nah, I did. I did. Some of my first songs came out through high school, and I was just super creative in a sense where like, I would have songs that I would do, and then it was a song that I wrote for another group that was a part of the school too, and they did their thing as far as like on stage with my song.
Oh,
So it was a
wow.
really good experience, you know what I mean, to just kind of just start that early as far as being a creative in that sense. Um,
Sure.
so yeah, so it started in high school and then it just kind of carried on to college for sure.
Was that something like aside from writing for like school plays and was that something that you would write songs out and perform them like open mic night stuff around town, or is it something that
Nah,
stayed within the school?
yeah, it was more so within the school. I wasn't,
Okay.
I wasn't, I wasn't there yet. There was other students that were like just kind of move around the city and stuff like that. I wasn't that guy.
Mhm.
I maybe did like maybe one competition, one contest, like in like throughout high school, like outside of the school walls.
Mhm.
And I remember going to it. It was like hundreds of people there. Everybody had to pay, so that's that was the setup from the start. But
Of
everybody
course.
had to pay, and I had my piano with me, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna sing "A House Is Not a Home," play, and like legit the first person that went up on stage, like as soon as we heard her, she did like "And I'm Telling You," the Jennifer Hudson
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Spice
yeah.
Girls remake, and I was just like, okay, so she wins, because I was like, I don't
Okay.
think anybody here is going to beat that. Like you're looking at the judges like just jumping up and down and throwing shoes and all kind of craziness. And I was just like, yeah, there's no way there's no way anyone is winning. Well, we went through the motions, but yeah, that was the only time outside of that.
Wow. And so did that person end up winning?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Okay. But you won your own contest, right? You won a contest. What was that, in college for Wild Out
Oh,
Wednesday?
yeah. So what happened is on a network called BET,
Mhm.
they had a television show called 106 and Park. And so that was like, it was like a really popular show, during that time frame. And I just turned maybe like 18. So I was like of legal age to actually be considered to participate in the contest. And I knew that the contest was held every Wednesday in New York. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm in Boston. So, it's nothing but like maybe like a 3 or 4 hour train ride down. Like we can knock that out. So my friend, shout out to Bobby Daniels, who coerced me into auditioning. We went and I was like, all right, cool, let's see. And I was like, okay, we like you. Let's put you on the show. They put me on the
Wow.
show.
That must have been
And
a cool moment.
it was a very cool and overwhelming moment for sure. And got to the show, and the contestants like laughed at me because it was like he ain't got no dancers. It's just him and his guitar player. Like this looks ridiculous.
Uh-huh.
And because during this time, like everybody was like dancing, like Chris Brown, Neo,
Sure.
everybody's like a dancer. And I'm like, I'm not a dancer. I'm a groover. I give you main two step, but
Right.
not a not an 8 count guy. So I went up there with the guitar and I was like, just due to the energy surrounding the my competitors, I was like, damn, I'm probably gonna lose because, obviously I'm out, I'm out of the demographic. But no, I won.
That's
I won.
crazy.
Yeah, I won that, and then I won the All-Star competition for that particular year. I don't remember the year now, but I mean, it was like some years ago now. But
Yeah.
yes, I ended up winning that, so that was really awesome. So I have a glass like award at home, and they messed it up. It was like best group Kevin Ross. I was like, I'm a group. Wait, what's going on? But now it's ingrained in history as best group,
That's
all-star best group Kevin Ross. All right,
that's
cool.
so
So
good. Did that put eyes on you as far as like the music industry when you
yeah,
being in that contest?
yeah, for sure. Another godsend came, and that was Troy Taylor. Troy Taylor, he had Songbook Entertainment. So Songbook was the home of Trey Songs, and so you know he reached out to me on MySpace, or
Really?
Twitter. Yeah, because it's like during this time, this is like we're stepping into 2009, 2010
Yeah.
in that time frame. So Instagram didn't pop off yet, so
Right.
you only had MySpace and Twitter to really interact on, and Facebook. But
Mhm.
MySpace was like
The
the
thing.
cool, yeah, the
Yeah, yeah.
coolest. Right? So he reached out on MySpace
That's so
and
funny.
began to, we started to converse. And I told him, I said I had a couple more years of school left. And so once I graduated, I went down to Atlanta where he was, and then just really started like training and, really kind of getting my chops up as a writer,
Uh-huh.
and then vicariously as a producer too. But yeah, that's kind of where my career started. Like my career started December 2011. That was the mark of my first placement. December
Okay.
2011.
What was your first
Yeah.
placement?
Jamie Foxx.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. He had an album called what was it called? Best Night of My Life. So it was right after the big album. I forget what the big album was. I think it was called Intuition, where it had
Yeah.
Blame It, all the
Okay.
hits in
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
So it was the album after that no one remembers. but nonetheless,
Still Jamie Foxx.
nonetheless,
Everyone knows Jamie
yeah, it's
Foxx.
still Jamie. I still met him. We still recording in this house, so you
That's
know,
cool.
it counts for something. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely counts for something.
Yeah.
So from that, did that kind of help jumpstart your career once you land the first placement? Did you start writing for other artists at this point?
No, no.
Oh, really?
It was quite a battle after that too.
Okay.
Honestly, I got the Jamie placement, but it came with some stuff too with it in a sense where I landed the placement, I bought the CD, looked at the cover, my name was nowhere to be found. Like they didn't give me no writer's credit, and I was like, what is going
Oh
on? So
man.
they fixed it, as far as like, but it taught me a valuable lesson of making sure that my lawyer checks everything, regardless of, who's your publisher or whatever the case may be.
Right, of
So that was,
course.
that was lesson number one, music 101, so
Make sure
then
your
after
name's
that,
on the record to get credit.
yeah,
For
yeah,
sure.
yeah. But then also too, it just kind of like, then after that, I would start working with a lot of producers, Brian Michael Cox, and of course Troy, of course. I'm trying to think of, like, it was so many different people. Damn,
Mhm.
whole bunch of people within Atlanta during that time that I was just like connecting with. What's his name? Sock Passe, who ended up doing "Who's Gonna Stop Me" by Jay-Z and Kanye, or even like as of recently coming in hot, Lecrae and Andy
Wow.
Mineo. So I worked with a whole bunch of people, but it didn't really click after that until maybe like a year or so after. Then I started to get more placements again with Johnny Gill and SWB and all this stuff. And then by that time, I was writing my own music, and I ended up getting a deal for
Okay.
myself as an artist at Motown. And so,
Wow.
that process was quite a long one,
I'd
or
imagine.
at least it felt like forever. I'll say that. It felt like forever. It felt like forever, man. I was like, wow, you get signed in 2012 or 2013, and you're just like going through the motions of it. You don't really hit the scene, or I don't really hit the scene. I do a commercial with Blade at the end of 2014.
Uh-huh.
And that was kind of like my introduction to music, or just the industry as an artist, which is kind of, that was my
Getting that
introduction
Glade commercial.
in the Glade commercial, then opening up for Maxwell and
Wow.
Neo, and that was really within like a 2 or 3 month, you know, span.
Was that when you put your record out too, Dialogue in the Gray?
Yeah, yep. September 2014 was when Dialogue on the Gray came out. So, that was a whole string. Like, so like the summer and fall of 2014 was like extra lit for me, because that was going on, like opening up for people, the Glade commercial. And then I scored my first number one with Trey Songz, rhythmic and urban, with Touch and Love featuring Nicki Minaj. So I was like, oh, like this is going down. Like,
Right. Yeah.
so it was a lot of moving parts, a lot of stuff happening during that time. So it was really, really awesome. Great start.
Yeah, for sure. And then the next record you put out was Long Song Away, right?
Yeah, which was legitimately a long song away. After like that great string of like moments, like then came like a year and a half of just kind of like restructuring and like just getting things together, because the people that I was with just didn't feel like we had the music and we didn't have the songs. And lo and behold, we had the songs already. Long Song
Mhm.
Away was created in 2013, like early on.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so we were just sitting on it. And I guess after a while they were just like, okay, well, we're not getting what we want, so I guess we're gonna work Long Song Away. And then lo and behold, that goes number one on Adult R&B. So that was really awesome.
That's huge. And then your debut record comes out.
Debut record comes out March 2017. Yep.
What was that like, putting out your like full length record?
It was really cool, man. It was really cool. The thing that I was grateful because I beat the odds. because I had heard the statistics, being signed to a major label, 95% of the artists that are signed to major labels never come out. They never release anything, right?
Right. They just get
So
shelved, or they
yeah,
go back and forth with the label, probably like, oh, this song isn't good enough. You need to
yeah,
write better songs. Yeah, I can imagine that being a battle.
yeah. So I beat the odds there, and then to make it to your debut album, I beat the odds there as well. I think because I put so much energy and work and effort into it that when I seen the CD, when I'm looking at it and it's like executive produced by all these names that weren't mine, and I was just like, huh, wait, what's going on? And it wasn't necessarily a surprise I agreed to that. But in hindsight, it was like, you know what, like I deserve that executive producer credit. You know what I mean? Of
Right,
just
right.
like that time and that energy that was placed into it. So all that to say is grateful, but I look at that album as a lesson learned. I look at that to say, wow, it's a lot of cook's kitchen, a lot of stuff moving around that I felt like we could have made the album a lot better than what it was. I think it was a great attempt. It was a great first attempt. But knowing what I know now, yeah, even then, I feel like it could have been so much better.
Okay. And you put out Drive. That was your last record with
Drive,
Motown.
yeah. Drive was my last record with Motown, and that was kind of the turning point. That was a turning point for me to say they actually allowed for me to do a project or a body of work on my own.
Oh,
So
they did on that one.
yeah. So well, granted, they were like they were asleep at the wheel. Let's just say
Okay.
that.
And
They're
you were the
asleep at the wheel.
driver.
Yeah. So
I like
I
that.
think to me it was just kind of like I delivered a project that was very cohesive. That the bass that I had during the time really thoroughly enjoyed, and it was streaming very well. And you know, after that, it was just kind of like, all right, well, we don't have any support as far as from radio. Like you guys are saying we're tapped out financially with just Kevin Ross Endeavor. And then, my champion that brought me into the building, they leave. And so,
Oh, I've heard
I'm
horror
like,
stories with that happening. Because then, like the other
"Hey,"
A&Rs, right? Like you're not their priority
exactly.
anymore.
I saw the writing on the wall. So I asked for my release, and they were just like, "Wait, what? Like things are going well. Like we're getting nominated for all this stuff, best new artist, iHeart Music Awards, this and that." And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but the tides are changing. So I'm asking for my release, and they didn't release me for about like a year and a half. You know what I mean? So
Really?
kind of,
So
but I mean,
did you
they did
just
let me
not
go.
release stuff? Were you just like kind of, did you have to sit on your hands at this point, or like what
Yeah,
happened?
I definitely sat on my hands. Thank God I had like the mashed up structure where I could, do tributes to people and just kind of keep my social media, you know what I mean, a little
Yeah, yeah,
fed.
yeah.
But as far as musically, I wasn't going to release anything new just because of the fact that if I bent in any kind of way, I wouldn't have been taken serious in what I was
Right.
trying to do and what I was trying to accomplish. So, I had to sit on my hands as it pertains to music. And I had a lot of
Uh-huh.
music. I just didn't have the support.
Hmm.
When an artist that you're supposed to care about with a little roster and you say, hey, I don't want to be here anymore, and the president of the company doesn't reach out until months later, I've already made up my mind. I've already made up my decision. So even
Hmm.
if the thing was, hey Kev, we really want you here, we really support you, we want you to do, the best that you could do as far as within your career. But if it takes you 2 or 3 months to answer back,
Hmm.
I've already kind of made up my mind to say I'm not a priority. And you know what I mean? And respectfully, you know what I mean? Like we went our separate ways, but just like, if you ask somebody to break up with you, if you're asking to break up with someone and they're not ready, um, they're gonna give you a little bit of a hard time, or to try to
Right.
take the steam and momentum off of you, so that, you're not necessarily, viable, commercially viable. So, I understood that when I started my independent endeavors, I started at zero, which was, it was a gift and a curse at the same time, more so a gift. But yeah, so shout out to Motown for letting me go, regardless of how long it took. I know that they didn't have to, because business wise, they didn't have to do that. They could have kept me on the
Right.
show forever. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? And not allow for me to move. So I'm grateful for them for even allowing for me to be released, to do the things that I needed to do. So I'm grateful for that. And yeah, and now we're here at our society music group. So I'm extremely excited.
That's amazing. You put out
Yeah.
2 projects last year, and
Three.
then you 3 projects last year?
Yeah, three
Oh,
projects.
wow.
Yeah. Audacity Volume
Oh,
1, Volume
1 and
2, and
2.
Complete. hmm
And what was
And
the
then
other?
it was Audacity Complete in December. So it was
Oh,
just kind
okay.
of like just like wrapping it with a bow and finishing off that series.
Okay. And then is that what took you back to Driver 2 now? Like, what,
Yeah.
tell me how
So
that kind of picks up. Like, so you had Driver done, and then how do you have a whole, series of records, the Audacity series come out in a row, all
mhm,
in within 2020, and then you're back now to Driver or
yeah.
Drive,
So
sorry.
no, you good. You good. Drive. Yeah, Drive 2. Honestly, I wasn't looking to make Drive 2. It was, it wasn't like, when I started the process, it was like, yep, I want to make Drive 2. It was more
Okay.
so to say, let's just see what records we come up with. And, it just started there. And I was gonna say, let the music kind of, be let the music speak to what the concept will be,
Uh-huh.
and then we'll build from there once we have the core records. And I did like this survey, where my peers and stuff could like really listen to the music. And the one record that really stood out was "Looking for Love," and I was like, "That's interesting. Um, you know what? Let's use this as a core record because if I've sent this out, that means that I care about their opinion. So let's
Mhm.
use that as a focus track." And the next record that I did was called "Sweet Release," and so from there, with those two, those pairing allow for me to say, oh, okay, this is Drive 2. This feels like this kind of vibe musically. And it just gave me a sense of direction to say, this is how this record is gonna go from here on out. This is how we're gonna, segue different things. So once we were out the blocks, it made it a lot easier to, do. My bad, I'm getting my charger to my
Oh, no
laptop.
worries. Okay, so wow. Well, I'm curious then with COVID happening, I mean, to put out 3 records in 1 year, but the first part of it came out in the beginning of 2020. So was the whole Audacity project complete in 2019, or was this something that you kind of continually put together throughout the course of the last year? And then when do you start working on Drive 2?
Yeah, so Audacity, the majority of Audacity was done before COVID even hit. I knew that
Okay.
I was gonna break it up into 2 segments. I just thought that 2020 would be a year where we would be free enough to do what we needed to do. But things changed, and so I needed to adjust to that.
Uh-huh.
So once the first project came out and then COVID hit, and I was just like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't know when's going to be a good time for me to release music. So we waited a while for that. And then I added a couple records on for Dry. I mean, not for Audacity Volume 2.
Mhm.
Then we put that out, and I want to say it was August or something like that of 2020. And
Okay.
then we just kind of finished it off with Complete in December. And after December, I want to say December 31st or January 1 was when I legit started recording the new music.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't really too much of a time lapse. It was like,
Right into the next project.
yeah, yeah, just trying to, just stay ahead of it. Because
Uh-huh.
I know the process. So um staying ahead of it, and we January, February, um, just creating music. And then once we really kind of got locked in, I think Drive 2 concert didn't get locked in until maybe April,
Okay.
April 2021. But by that time I had Looking for Love, and that was kind of the record that I was really aiming towards anyways. So by May, we were, set to do the video, you know what I mean? Like the
Hmm.
whole shebang,
Right, right,
and,
right.
get ready for radio. So by July, when it came out, we had already kind of had a plan, in place for how we wanted to execute Looking for Love. And, we left the rest up to God to say, all right, we did our part and we sold. And so, you know, let's keep it moving and we're going to see what this harvest is going to be for Looking for Love eventually.
Would you say that Drive 2 kind of picked up at all where the first one left off, or like how come how come it's the second, the second part to that record that was, from 2017?
Well, it's because it's a familiar sound in the
Got it.
sense that, like, and it's a familiar flow
Hmm.
in the sense where, like, if people listen to Drive One, they understand how I started it, and how I start Drive Two is not too similar, but like they're kin to one another. Versus
Sure.
Audacity is its own, like it's its own thing. Audacity is its own identity that's just like paint, just wild paint on the wall, right?
Right.
So which is great. But Drive Two is more focused, it's more centered, it's more musically soothing. It's a certain like sonic, area that I'm really like targeting that is kin to the first. So I knew that
Okay.
this was going to be the extension. And I think I'm in Drive Two. I think truly from rollout wise to music to growth, is far better than the first. And I'm very proud of the first one. But
Hmm.
I'm looking at this one and it's like, and
Very,
it, and,
very
and it
proud of this
and it could and
one.
it yeah and it could be because it's new. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And sometimes you got to give it some life to really see what you got to say. That was a bad song. That didn't age well. So it is what it
Yeah.
is.
Have you had a chance to perform at all within the
Oh
past
man,
year and a half?
yeah. I just started performing maybe like a couple months ago. I think we started in Detroit, and then we did Chicago, and then we did hmm I forget the place that we did in I want to say it was either Illinois or somewhere. I forget
Okay.
Michigan or something. And then we ended up doing just recently we did a string of shows: Oakland,
Oh, cool.
Dallas, Delaware. This Friday we have DC, and then
Well, that'll be big, like a homecoming show
yeah,
for you.
that's gonna be awesome. So it's two shows, and it's two shows too. So it's like it's really awesome.
That is
And
super
then
cool.
what else? We have Raleigh, North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, and then Atlanta, Georgia. Um, and then we have Hampton, Virginia in December. And so yeah, we're just trying to just tie it all together. And this is me working out because I'm working out the vocals and working out the show, and of course giving people a show, but most importantly, just making sure that moving forward, that whatever we do moving on, that it's cohesive, it's solid. We know what songs people like, we know what people gravitate towards, and just like a comedian, when they go to different comedy stores and comedy shops and stuff like that, like they call it working out, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Or they call it stretching out. So for musicians, we should have the same kind of right to stretch out and work out our set, so that when we hit bigger stages, theaters and arenas, we have a tighter set.
I love that. I love that. And I'm and I really appreciate you taking time to talk with me today, Kevin. This has been great.
Oh,
I have one more question. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
yes, I do. Um, a couple of things. First, um, to know your power, you have to understand how powerful you really are before you distribute your power to other people. So understand how powerful you really are first and foremost. Have a vision set in place, and then make sure that you sow the seeds in order to reap the harvest. So whether that is putting time into the studio, whether that's writing, whether that's production, whatever that you do creatively, make sure that you put in the hours of practice. Make sure that you put in the hours of collaborating with people so that when the opportunity presents itself, you are ready and you have enough skills in order to execute by any means necessary. And then also, if you ever feel like you're plateauing, and I learned this from a pastor by the name of Mike Todd, is if you ever hit a plateau, then you make sure that you sow into other people. That means that you give your time, whether it's the energy, whether it's monetarily, but give your time to other people who may need it, where you can be of assistance. Be a blessing to others too when you feel like you can't do any more for yourself. God is working in that area so that He can raise you up and lift you up. But for the time being, try to be a blessing to others in the meantime, in between time, because you never know, how your community can help when your moment happens again, or, when you're ascending to another peak. Then yes, this life and this career is peaks and valleys. So don't get caught up on one mountain when when you got 9 to climb. So enjoy the journey.